Hello and welcome to your next tutorial in C++, and today we're going to be discussing static member variables. Now, do you remember in the last tutorial we were learning about static variables? I was about to say member variables. Static variables, as you remember, are variables that will last throughout the life cycle of your system. So why would we need that? Well, in this example, what I would like to do is to create a class called, what do I want to call it? Should I call it bank? Yeah, I think I'll call it bank. And basically inside this bank class, I would like to create a bunch of objects for people that use it. So users. I don't know what I'm going to call them. I guess I can call them users. But anyways, when they're inside this class, they can deposit, they can withdraw. So those are pretty much your mutator functions, or no, those will be separate. Those will be separate functions. But anyways, they'll be able to set their balance, their account number, all of that. But what would the static member variables be? Well, what if I would like to continue to monitor the total balance of the entire bank, and maybe hold how many accounts there are, like how many objects are there in this application? Maybe I want to be able to hold that number. So let's first create this class, because that's going to take a bit. So start with the header file, and I'll call it bank.h. So click add, and then here I'll add a new item, CPP, so that's a bank. There we go. Okay, so there we got our files. And in here, in our main, we'll need to include, should I include string? Yeah, I probably should. And I'll also need to include the header file. Whoops. There we go. So I'm going to copy these guys right here. Copy, and I'll paste them right in my header file. So there we go. And let me bring these down a couple bit and do my if not defined stuff. And let's see here. There we go. So I create a class called bank, semicolon, and public, private. Oops. There we go. And get that back there. There we go. So what are the member variables that we're going to need here? Oh, did I include it in here? I don't think I did. Include. There we go. And I'll save all. So what are the member variables that we'll need? Let's go a string for name. Let's go an int for account number. And double balance. Then we're going to need our static variables. So let's create our static variables, shall we? So we need a static int, and that will be equal to, I need a name for it, total accounts. So that will be equal to the total number of accounts in the bank. Then I'll create another static variable called static double, equal to bank balance. And that will be equal to, not an equal sign, whoops. And that will be equal to the total amount of money inside the bank. So there we go. So we actually have quite a bit to do here. So I'm just going to do my regular stuff here, and let's do that. So default constructor. Now I'm starting to think if I should start cutting this out or not, because this is a lot. So bank, and then we're going to have all these guys. So I'll just copy them and throw them in, paste. Oh, I didn't even need that. Oh goodness. And so account number will be equal to 0, and balance will be equal to 0.0 because it's a double. And let's create an overload. And the overload. Okay, so that's going to be bank. And what am I going to need in there? I'll need a string, an int, and a double. And so I'll just do that one. And let me do my destructor as well. And I'll need to do the tilde, bank. So then I'll go back over here. Oh, I didn't even spell this stuff right. I'm doing a really bad job at this. Sorry about that. And there we go. So that's, I'll go down here, bank, and bank. So then I'll go. Yeah, I didn't even call them that. Oh well, I'll call them new here. So string new name and int new account number and double new balance. And so we'll set. Wow, I'm really going backwards there. So I'll set. So string int double. Oh, right there. So then I'll have name will be equal to new name. Then I'll have account number equal to new account number. And I'll set balance equal to new balance. There we go. So that's our overload, and then we need a destructor. So this guy. And yes, we will be messing with this guy later. So now we're going to need our accessors. You know what? I think I'm going to do the accessors in the... you know, I'm just going to do the accessors off screen, so I'll be right back. Okay, now we have everything. So we have all three of our accessor functions and all three of our mutator functions in order to access these guys. So now where do the static variables come into place? Well, we're going to want to be able to throw in two more functions that will allow the users to both withdraw and deposit. But before we do that, did you know that you can actually set defaults for these? Well, how do you go about doing that? Can you just go equals 0 here? Well, this will actually give you some errors. Even though it's not appearing right now, this can be very troublesome. You don't do it here. So in order to actually go about initializing your static variables, let me actually do it here. Let's see if I get the error. Yeah, there you go. There's the error. So let me go about solving this for you. In order to initialize your static variables, you can't do that there. You'll need to do that in your CPP file, and I actually usually do them at the top. So at the top, I'll just modify my static member variables. And in order to access them, first type out the data type that they are, then the class they're in, then the scope resolution, just like with the functions, then account number, so where's the one that we want? Not bank balance, we'll do that one next. Total accounts. Then we'll set it equal to 0, just like that. And that's how you initialize them. So for double bank bank balance, that's what we want. Let's initialize it at, should we go 1,000? Let's say it's a small bank, not that many people. We'll initialize it at 1,000. Nah, that's kind of small. Let's go 10,000. I don't know, because I'm going to be throwing in $1,000 with each user. So, okay, so $10,000 and starts out with 0 accounts. Okay, so now that we have all of those, before we actually get into the deposit and withdrawal, let's see how we actually modify these as we go through and create objects. Now with the total accounts, how do we increment up total accounts? Well, every time we instantiate a new object, or in other words, a new user in the bank, whether they use the default constructor or the overloaded constructor, and there could be other overloaded constructors too, just so you know, they can only use one. We know that because you can only use one constructor at a time. So an object can't use 2 constructors. It's not possible. So whichever one they use, down here, we're going to have to throw out total accounts plus plus. And that will increment the static variable up by 1. And we'll also need to do it down here as well. Total accounts plus plus. And there you go. So every time we now create a new user, a new object, the total accounts will now increment up by 1. And what about the balance? Well, we don't have to really modify this guy because here with the default constructor, there's no parameters, so nothing will get added in. However, with this overloaded constructor, they're going to have a new balance. They're going to deposit something, right, when they make their account. So that means we're going to have to access bank balance and plus equals their new balance. So notice how we're going to set the balance of that specific user equal to whatever their new balance is, because they're just opening that account for the first time. But we're also going to have to modify the original and add on whatever they deposited as well. So if they deposit something, then the whole bank balance will go up. So that's important to remember. So these guys are perfect, I believe. So now what about our destructor? Well, once an object is destroyed, well, then our total accounts and bank balance are going to change, aren't they? So now we're going to actually use our destructor. So if we destroy an object, total accounts must now decrement. On top of that, the bank balance will then have to minus equals whatever balance that specific user had. So notice how this is the member variable. This is the member variable way down here, the balance for that one user. So whichever object we're talking about, it's going to take the entire bank balance and subtract that specific object's balance. Okay, so get name, get account, get balance. We don't have to worry about those guys. Now the mutators are a little bit different. These guys are fine, but the balance is kind of a beast. Now, with the set balance, the first thing that will come into mind is just to take whatever their original balance was and set it equal to the new balance, right? And, well, what about the static variable? So do we just go, what was it called? Bank balance plus equals balance? No, this is actually very bad. And the reason why this is bad is because you're actually modifying the balance, but you're not taking away whatever the user might originally had in. Now, when we've used mutators in the past, we didn't already have values for them. However, we might have used the default constructor up here and, added whatever the deposit was to the bank balance. But then maybe later we want to use this mutator to specifically specify what their balance is. So before we can do anything, we have to take bank balance and subtract from it whatever balance they might already have. It could be 0, but we don't know. So we want to subtract whatever they originally had. Then change the balance to be equal to the parameter, so the new balance. Then add on to the bank balance whatever the new balance is. So remember, you got to take away whatever their balance might have originally been before modifying it. Then after you modify it, then you can add on whatever that new value is. So that's how the set balance mutator function works. So now we're going to need 2 more, I believe. We're going to need a deposit and a withdrawal. So we're going to have a void. Should I do withdrawal first? So that should be good, and I think that's all it's going to do. So I will just leave it as that. I'm not going to put any comments for these ones. I'll go void deposit. And yeah, these look to be all good. So why is this one underlined? Oh, okay. So, okay, there you go. So we've got withdrawal and deposit. So let's actually work with the withdrawal and deposit now. So we're going to have withdraw. So there's a few different things that are going to be going on here. Just about 2 things. So with the withdrawal, we're going to have to subtract how much they want to take out of it. So we're going to actually need a parameter in there. We're going to need a double. So they're going to be telling us how much they want to withdraw or deposit. That'll be the parameter. So in here we'll have double, and what do we want to call it? I'll just keep calling it withdrawal. So then we're going to want to take the balance, that user's balance, and subtract that withdrawal because, well, they're taking money out of their balance. So balance is undefined. Balance. Did I spell it wrong? So let me copy this. Copy and paste. So, ooh, I don't know what's going on here. Um, oh, whoops, scope resolution. So, bank, there we go. That's why I can't find it. Okay, so we took their balance, and now we're going to subtract whatever they're withdrawing because their balance is going to go down. But we're also going to want to take away that same amount from the bank balance. So bank balance minus equal the withdrawal as well. So that's it for that. Then it's pretty much the same for the deposit. So void bank, I won't make that same mistake this time. Deposit, double deposit, there we go. And we're going to take balance and add to that whatever they're depositing. So deposit and the bank balance as well. And deposit. Okay, so I'll click save, and this should be everything. So everything should work. So I'm going to actually go off screen for a moment, and I'm going to set up some code here, and then we can go through it line for line while the application is running so we can see it working properly. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I created the code. So I want to show you something really quickly here. And that's basically how to access a function inside of a class in your main function without having to reference an object. You could just type out the name of the class followed by your scope resolution, then the name of it. So I had to create this function, so let me show that to you. So in the header file, I created the print bank info, and basically all that does is print the information of the bank, so just these two guys. But because we're printing, not just using, but printing static variables, we need to throw the static in the front. However, in the CPP file, notice how for the print bank info I didn't put static right there. So you don't put the static there, but you do put it in your header file for functions that involve printing your static variables. But notice how in other places we didn't have to do that, but here you will. So just remember the static right in front of there. So okay, so all it does is says total number of accounts, and total balance for the bank. That's all it does. And I created this code here, so let's go through it. So I'm actually going to run this. Okay, so the first thing that happens is it prints the bank info. So by default, we have a number of accounts as 0, and the total balance is 10,000. And that's because here at the top, we initialize the bank balance to 10,000. And so Adam created an account and deposited 500, as you can see right here. And Sarah created an account and deposited 1,000. So after all this Adam stuff, so Adam actually used the default constructor, while Sarah used I used the overload constructor, and Sarah used the default constructor. However, down here, she used the mutator functions. So using the mutators, we added both 500 and 1,000, and then called the print function once again. So now it says number of accounts is 2. That's both me and Sarah. And we deposited 500 and 1,000, so the total balance for the bank is 11,500. Now down here, Dick created an account and deposited 1,500. And he does this with an overload constructor. So he throws in another 1,500 right here. So now we have number of accounts 3. And he added 1,500 to our 11,500 to a total of 13,000 in the bank. Now allow me to scroll down a bit here. There we go. And that should be it. So now it says Dick created an account, so I did that and then printed it. Now it says Dick set his balance to 1,200. And this is where that interesting thing comes into play, that we can't just change the balance to 1,200 for both him and the bank. So as you can see here, it says Dick set his balance to 1,200. So number of accounts is still 3, as it's called right with this guy. But the total balance is now 12,700. Notice how 1,200 is 300 less than 1,500. So what happened is, well, you can see the 300 difference right here for the bank balance. But the math that goes behind in the set balance is it actually took away the original 1,500 Dick had to bring this down to 11,500. Then it added that 1,200 to it to bring it back up to 12,700. So that set balance is the little weird mutator function that is out of the normality, what we might be used to. Then after all that mischief from Dick, Sarah used the deposit. So I never used the withdraw function, but here's the deposit function. She deposits 700. So we go from 12,700 to 13,400. Then down here, it says Adam's account was terminated due to lack of use. So Adam's account was now destroyed using the destructor right here, as you can see, right under that statement. Then we printed the information once again. So the destructor, as you might have remembered, we decremented the number of accounts back down to 2. Then we took away what his balance was originally from the total bank balance. And the only thing I had was the 500. I never did anything else. So the 13,400 went back down to 12,900. So that's it. That's basically static member variables for you. So I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. And man, these tutorials are getting pretty long, but I really hope that it was helpful for you, and I'll see you next time.